All right, this is a disc that I've been pretty excited about for the past month or two. The MVP Trail, pretty unique flight numbers, 10, 5, -1, 1. So a little bit different than most discs that I've seen. Kind of suggests that it's going to be kind of like a faster TL or TL3, which is definitely pretty interesting. I'm going to throw it on some holes here at Shadow Pines. Going to try it out. My guess, based on the time lapse which came out in Neutron Plastic recently. Okay, I mean, yeah, that one's stable. It's gonna be probably a little more overstable than that and maybe beats in. We'll see, maybe it'll be more true to the flight numbers. I've got my bag with me, so I'm gonna test it against a couple other discs just to kind of see how it compares to other discs in my bag that I'm more familiar with. But anyway, and of course, end of the video, I'll be giving this away. You know the drill. Starting off with easy par 4. Just gonna throw it and see what happens. A little bit of headwind. Oh yeah. It's definitely kind of flippy, but it didn't turn into like a roller. Just kind of panned out the whole way. Definitely did not throw this thing super hard. I think this hole is over 600 feet. Little downhill, but it went really far. Oh, not a bad upshot. First forehand in a week. No, never mind, that was a terrible upshot. That was so short. Of course, as always, thanks to OTB for sending this to me. You can get this disc in the description of the video. Now, we've seen that we can hold the turnover line, which based on the flight numbers isn't exactly very surprising. I do want to see how we can hit a little flip up through a gap here. So I'm gonna play hole 3 whites here and just try and keep it on this low ceiling, sort of on like a hyzer flip line, and just see how it reacts. I'm gonna try not to turn it over too much. Wow. Kind of flippy, honestly, kind of flippy. Okay, this is honestly like a super solid drive on this hole, especially going up that middle gap. Disc is definitely oh, get past the tree. Okay, parked. Disc is definitely a little flippier than I thought, but pretty true to the flight numbers actually. Not as stable as I was expecting compared to other MVP discs I've tried out. Yeah, good thing I warmed up my upshots on the first hole. Freest tap in of my whole life. All right, this is not a hole I would throw this disc on pretty much ever. However, I do want to see if I can get it to hold hyzer the whole way up, because you do need it to finish left at the end of the flight. And I just want to see if I put on a bunch of hyzer, will it turn over way too much and go all the way right, or can I get it to come back to the basket? It is uphill, which will help. I can give it a bit of sort of nose up to help with that. Looks like the answer is no. Wow, that turned over so much. As a quick comparison, I have my CD1, a little bit beat up. It's first run C-Line CD1. Similar, it's a 9.5 -1.2, so a little bit more fade, a little bit less speed. I consider this to be sort of one of the flippier fairway drivers in my bag. So we'll see if this holds hyzer a little better. I think it will. I put that on a decent amount of hyzer and it turned way right. I think this will kind of give you an example of the stability. This is kind of understable, but I think with that amount of hyzer and uphill, it should come back left towards the end. Yeah, so not the most stable disc ever, but got to pin high, had a little bit of left finish. I think the trail kind of came left at the end, but it was so much further right that it didn't really matter. It was pretty much going right the whole way. Okay, I don't really have a great way to show the disc and the basket because there's all this stuff behind me, but I'm about almost 100 feet right of the basket here, and probably about 80 to 70 feet right of where the other disc landed. And I'm just gonna give it a putt from here. It's not gonna make it in because it's way too far, but just a layup. But it went far. It went far, it just turned over. So for comparison, here's where the CD1 landed in relation to the basket. There's my layup. I'm not gonna show you the putt because it's parked. And then over there is where I was at just now. So, you know, quite a bit of difference in stability there. So really interesting that this is gonna be sort of a James Conrad disc. I'm curious if he'll actually be throwing it. I don't really know much about his bag, so maybe he throws a bit more understable, but compared to the other MVP or whatever MVP adjacent brand releases that I've thrown recently, new stuff that I've put in my bag, so like the Pyro, pretty overstable as far as the disc goes. Like it's not like a flippier disc that I would expect, where if you look at something with similar numbers that like Innova would make, like a Rock 3, you know, the Pyro is obviously more overstable. Then you have the Hex. The Hex, both my Glow and my Neutron Hex were probably a bit more overstable than I expected based on the flight numbers, and are kind of beating in to get more towards that. And then how could you forget the time-lapse release, way more overstable than pretty much anyone expected with the Neutron run that we got that first run. So with the trail, I was expecting it to be a bit more overstable than the suggested, maybe closer to what my CD1 is now, but I'm actually kind of surprised to see that it's flippier than any of those other discs compared to the flight numbers. Like it probably is pretty true to the flight numbers, to be honest, but it is more understable than I expected. Also, cool little tidbit, there's like a little longitude, latitude number on there. Looked it up. It is the peak of Mount Mansfield, which is in Stowe, Vermont, right by where GMC is played at Smuggler's Notch Resort. So pretty cool. So I'm starting to get the feeling, the reason why I say it's weird that James had this in his bag, or you know, kind of speculating whether or not it's gonna be in his bag, it feels a bit more like a disc for amateurs. It's not meant to be like a slight or anything. It's just kind of, you can throw it, get it to flip up really easy, and it does glide pretty well. Like it goes pretty far. It just, when thrown with a decent amount of power, it seems to want to turn over quite a bit. We don't have a lot of wind here. We have kind of a straight shot. I'm gonna play the whites here because I don't want to think about hitting a Mando. But I'm gonna put it on like a good bit of hyzer, but I'm gonna throw it a little bit down tempo and just kind of see how it flies when I'm not trying to throw it very hard. So I'm just gonna throw it like a nice easy shot. I'm not trying to go for the eagle or the birdie or anything like that. I'm just gonna throw it, hit the gap, and just see how it flies. Okay, so was expecting it to turn right based on how I threw it before. When thrown lighter, it is going a lot more of that like mellow flip up that I would expect from that like -1-1. All right, we're just a little bit past the red tee here, which means I can technically still birdie, as I have eagled the red like 1 or 2 times. Not exactly easy, but this disc might actually line up for it nice. Little turnover. I don't know if I really want to force it over just because it's like kind of understable. I'm gonna throw it on like maybe a little bit of hyzer and see if I can get that natural turn to do a decent amount. Now the wind has died down since the first couple holes, so I'm curious if that's also gonna play a little bit of a role in how this goes. All right, let's just, I kind of forgot where the disc was, so I'm just gonna pretend I remember where to plant my foot. Oh, it just turns so much. Can it come back though? Not sure if you could see that. Threw it on a hyzer, not like a ton of hyzer. I kind of wanted it to get that turn, and it gets up to turn over, and then it starts turning, and it just doesn't really come back. Like it just kind of keeps going. So if you throw it hard on a little bit of hyzer, it's gonna get up to that spot where you expect it to coast, and it's just gonna keep kind of moving over. There is kind of a putt here, so I'll give it a run. Long one. Oh, cut. All right, we're running out of daylight here, so I'm gonna finish off on my 2 favorite holes at the course. That is 13 blue and 18 blue. They're both about 420-foot water carries. Pretty fun to play. Kind of a bit of a gap hit on 13 to stay above the water and make it to the basket without hitting any trees. And then 18 is kind of just a big bomb, put it as far down the fairway as you can. So I'm really interested to see if I can keep these throws safe on these 2 holes. And for any of you participating in the giveaway, which I know is a decent amount of you, you're gonna be hoping that I can do so as well, so I can give this disc away. I'm gonna try and give it as much hyzer as I can and get it down there. We'll see how it goes. And then after I throw these 2 shots, I will give my final impressions. Here we go, hole 13 blues. I'm gonna give it all I got. Oh, I cleared it. I tried to give that so much hyzer. Where'd it go? Okay, I literally lost it. I tried to look over to the right. I have no idea where it went. Let's go look for it. Okay, it looks like we found the disc. It went all the way over to 18's fairway. The basket is over there, and that's the tree that you saw on the right with the pond there. So just cooked all the way right the entire way and never really had much of a chance of coming back. So that's been kind of the story with this disc so far. But I got it past pin high, so it probably went about 430. I'm not even gonna try and putt that because it's just gonna be a layup. We're gonna go over to 18 right over there. All right, 18 blues. The last throw I gotta make so I can give this thing away when I get home. My real only goal here is to give it enough hyzer so that it won't go right. Because if any of you played here before, you know all the way to the right at the bottom of the ditch is the grossest, murkiest pond, scum, swamp, whatever you want to call it. If you go in there, I'm not getting it back for a while, and I'm not gonna be able to give this thing away. So I'm gonna clear the pond or the OB or whatever, and I'm going to try to keep it left as much as possible. And we'll try and get a good rip out of it. So here goes nothing. I'm gonna try and give it like that much hyzer and a good amount of height. Just mitigate the turn as much as I can. You know what, I'm getting serious on this one. I'm bringing out the whale sack. Oh my goodness, I gave that so much hyzer. It still turned over a little bit. Cleared comfortably and got it left. So, I mean, that the disc is like pretty flippy. I know I like doing comparisons. Here's the flippiest destroyer in my bag. Like, I don't even throw it that much because I think it's a little too flippy for me, depending on the situation. I'm gonna put it on a good bit of hyzer, not nearly as much as I did there. You'll kind of see the difference. See, that kind of coasts it up, goes straight. Not nearly as much height or hyzer. So that's kind of like the amount of flip I would expect from that, which I guess is silly because that is a destroyer and they're very different flight numbers. But it is flippy. Let's go finish up the hole and I'll give my final conclusions on the disc. Unfortunately, it didn't quite beat my destroyer in distance, but it's definitely, it's punching up above its weight class a little bit. Destroyer's over there a little bit closer. Kind of didn't trust it to give it the power, didn't want to turn it over, so I gave it a lot of hyzer, a little bit less power, and a lot of height, which actually kind of worked out. It got pretty far left. I literally actually also think I'm too far left, and this shot right here is hard. I'm just gonna throw a pure kind of straight. Go! Okay, well, so here's my closing thoughts on the trail. Not really sure this is a disc for me, which is fine because I'm giving it away, but I do think it is a good disc. It seems to go pretty far. Like, for a 10 speed, this thing will glide for quite a while. It's just a bit too flippy for my taste. However, I think this is a fantastic disc for amateurs. Like, I think for most people, this is actually gonna be a really good disc. I think a lot of people are really, really, really gonna like this disc. And I think it's gonna find a way into a lot of people's bag, especially in that sort of like not quite distance driver, hitting tight gaps in the woods where you wanna push really far, or just kind of like stuff that will flip up for you out in the open. So kind of in the slot where like maybe a Grace would be, obviously like a beat up TL or TL3, something like that that'll flip up for you, but it really does push quite far without needing a ton of effort. So I really like it for that. Of course, as always, go to my Instagram in the description. If you want to buy the disc for yourself, you can get it on OTB, or if you want to win it in the giveaway, go find my Instagram post, like it, comment, follow, and a week from now I'll be giving this guy away to a lucky winner. So thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.